I'm Rob Lucuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby, here with Emmy winner Steffan Falesitch, supervising sound editor on FX. Is what we do in the shadows. Stefan, first of all, congratulations. Ninth
Thank
Emmy
you.
nomination. That's cool.
Yeah, we're hoping that we got nominated every year. This is season 5, so good vibes.
Very
Hopefully,
good vibes.
we'll win. We'll win this time.
I look, fingers and toes crossed for what we do on the show.
Yeah.
Take home some Emmys. Does it ever get old, or do you just think like the pressure's on now because you've been nominated every year? It's like, what if we miss? That's going to be so devastating.
It never gets old. It really doesn't, And I mean, it would be nice to win, but the whole event is wonderful. And last year we had a great time, and there was music, food, a lot of you end up meeting a lot of people you haven't seen in a while. So yeah, no, it's fantastic.
I can imagine. So you have won before, back in 2007 for Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee.
That's right. Hmm.
Um, so what's it like? I get you just said the food and all that, and it is fun. I've been to the Emmys as well. It's a really, really great night. But when you're sitting in that seat and you either your name is called and you win, or your name is not called and you don't win, what's that experience like for a supervising sound editor? You're so busy, you're usually in the trenches, you're working with sound, making sure that the show sounds perfect, and then you're out and about with your ball, your partner's wearing a ball gown or whatever it may be, and it's so
Hmm.
glitzy and glamorous. What's that like for you?
Well, I'm not very good at speaking with large crowds. And the last time, I think that was 2 years ago, I went, I didn't expect, because sometimes the ceremony I think a few years ago was in a smaller venue. And then the one a few years ago was a very big venue. And then I hadn't prepared the speech, and I was there with my son. And I was so panicked because I'm not very good at speaking in front of people. So fortunately, I guess for my anxiety, we didn't win that year. But now I have I'm definitely going to have a speech ready, and it's hopefully we win, and it's not going to be as stressful. But yeah, I mean, for people who work behind the scenes, some people I've noticed some people are very comfortable, but that's not my case. And it's easy for me to talk to you one on one, but when you're on the stage and all that, it gets a little scary. Of course, when you don't win, you're disappointed, but there's always next year, and so
That's
far
right.
it's worked out well for us.
I know you. They just keep inviting you back. So let's talk
Yeah.
about your work on the show, which
Hmm.
I absolutely love. There's not a lot of shows that make me laugh out loud. This is absolutely one of them. Um,
Yes.
why did you submit the night market episode as your best work for the season?
Well, we try to pick an episode that has a lot in it, because as you know, a lot of the episodes, even though the amount of work and what we do, we try to be as tasteful as possible, and it's not as impressive because they spend a lot of time indoors talking to each other, making us laugh. This one, I mean, on a sound effects level, on a sound editing level, we had a lot of, a group ADR and all that. That was a very, very busy show. I mean, we had to create this whole night market atmosphere with all the backgrounds, the creatures, the merchants that are selling all kinds of things, and then there's a big fight that lasts, minutes. I forgot how long it is, and that has a lot of stuff in there too. So I thought that was a good one to submit, because it definitely draws your attention.
Absolutely. I think it was a great, great idea to submit this one. As you say, with the like I was expecting a cacophony of sound. You're outdoors, you're in a market with all these creatures, the fight. You don't often, I believe, get that kind of opportunity with comedy series. They're usually a little, I just guess for the layperson, we would expect not necessarily the most innovative sound in comedy
Hmm.
because we're not thinking along those lines, but yet on a show like this, I feel like you're doing sound for, it's like you're doing it for a prestige drama series. It's very, very technical, isn't it? Explain why this show requires that level of sound and it's not just something that you would see in any other comedy series.
Yeah, I mean, especially this episode. I mean, in a way, it was like a mini movie. I mean,
Yeah.
and then the challenge also is for the mixers because we provide so many layers. But if you think of the crowds alone, there's the group ADR that has many tracks because there's the people who just kind of like what that's called call outs when they just call certain things and just little things that pop out. There's the one track that is the bed. There's another track that is usually pass-bys, people just walking by the camera. So that's just one layers. And then there's the sound effects that we have that we add different crowds and etc. And then the production has also some crowds on there too. And it's just to create this whole landscape is challenging, but it gets all sorted out during the mix, but there's a lot to put together, definitely. I mean, everything that has to do with the group ADR is much more specific, and sometimes you see people that you wouldn't hear normally, and we actually have people who try to imitate what they think their voice would be, and then try to put things in sync. And so you go through this market, and once in a while you see a person, if your eye kind of and you can, in the mix it's low, but it's there's a person talking. And then we created also our sound editor David Barbie created, because I had this idea to have an offstage little creature bargaining argument, and so they make these sounds, and so he recorded himself and he processed it through all his software that he has, and it sounds like there's one, what you picture as a big monster that has a low voice and a little squeaky thing, and they're just arguing. I mean, you don't see them, but you feel their presence, and it adds to this crazy market environment.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we had scripted. The producers had scripted lines that they wanted upstage to create. Some people are selling, because they're vampires, so they're selling coffins. They're for to sleep at night. They're selling potions, and all these things that they came up with. And so we had people saying all these things, and we scattered them all over the place. So if I mean, you really have to pay attention, so you listen to the people in the front, but all that is happening in the background.
And it just really adds so much dimension to
Oh yeah.
the scenes. Like they'd be so flat and they wouldn't quite work otherwise without that level of sound. I'm curious, as a supervising sound editor, it's my understanding is it's your job to give the mixers as much, I guess, content as possible. You're working with ADR, with Foley,
Mm-hmm.
and then what's it like for the sound editor? Do you have a very close relationship with the supervising sound mix or the re-recording mixers to make sure that they're using what you've given them in a certain way, or do you just let it go and let them do their job?
Well, I like on my team and on the shows that I work on, I like to have everybody express themselves the way they want. So I give everybody direction. Like, for instance, we have a spotting session for the show, and I get all what the producers want, and they can be very specific. They want certain things, and then I pass that along to the editors. But I feel like they can interpret it any way they want. And then before I send it to the stage, I listen through everything and make sure that all what the producers want is addressed. And then when it goes to the stage, I have the same philosophy. I like the mixers to kind of discover and put their own spin on it. And then whenever there's something that the producers really want in a certain area, I will stop them and say, this is very important that we hear this line or we hear this sound effect because you might have missed it, but it tells something about the story. And so I try to guide people, but I try to be unobtrusive, and I feel like it's a very collaborative effort. And sometimes you have ideas in your head and you think it's going to sound a certain way, and then it goes through everybody and it turns into something different. And I love that. It's wow, I didn't think about playing it like this. Why not? And then we play it back for the producers, and they might go, oh, that's really an interesting interpretation. Or let's go back and change it. We had more of a different vision. But it's kind of a game to put on our own spin, and everybody feels involved. and then have the producer's vision, executed, and that's kind of how I approach. So I don't like to macromanage people,
Yeah.
yeah.
In so many professions, it's obviously so much better when you're collaborating as opposed to being some crazy narcissist who just wants to control the way
Oh
it sounds.
yeah,
It makes a lot of, and plus you've also got the score and the needle drops by the music supervisor, the
mm-hmm.
score composer. There's so much going into the mix, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
really interesting that you're able to put your best foot forward, but also let others contribute to something that's going to make the show sound. It just sounds so perfect. So yeah, that's really awesome, don't you think?
Yeah, and then it also, as far as motivation, because I give feedback to the editors. Oh, this idea you had, they loved it, and so everybody is involved because there's a lot of behind the scenes where you don't get on the dub stage, and you might feel a little disconnected. But whenever you get feedback and your ideas are appreciated, over time it gets better and better, and I think we're achieving that.
Yeah. Just generally for sound editors, I just wonder, do you ever feel this pressure to constantly find and create something new and innovative, something that you've never used before? Like all of us watch these crazy videos of Foley artists,
Mm-hmm.
those ridiculous things, and we think, "Wow, I can't believe you found that sound from that." Is that always in the back of your mind, or is that just something that we think it's more of a myth?
I think it's a little of both. I mean, I have in my mind, my mind is always open. I always hear things, and I tend to collect things. But for the show, I don't sit down and go, okay, we got to come up with new things. It just kind of happens. And I feel like there's a certain language of TV and of film that certain sounds just work, and we all expect, even though, I mean, it's not on this show, but when people type on a computer in a movie, it makes a sound, but obviously it doesn't.
Yeah.
But there's certain things that people expect, that we expect, that are part of the language, and it just makes a point, and it works, and it gets you in the scene, and everybody relates to. But there's other things you can try, and sometimes I just hear things, and one day we were having lunch with the mixers actually, and then they had their little. The guy had like a metal box for his lunch, and he dragged it on the marble counter, and I go, oh, I'm gonna need this. I didn't know why, but at the time I was working. I don't know if there was an episode of What We Do in the Shadows where they're in this setting, and there's a throne with like gigantic claws, and they pull the claws, and I didn't even know. I was working on that episode, but I didn't make the connection. I just knew this sound. I had to record it, so we did. And now with an iPhone, I have an iPhone, and I have a special microphone that I got, really nice, and I recorded that. And then when I went home, I said, oh, that's why I wanted that sound. And then I put it up, and it was perfect, and it totally worked with that. And I have other things that happen to me, and I'm just oh, I need this sound, and it's all in my mind, and then once in a while I just go, oh, I remember, and let's use that. So yeah, and I also enjoy using sounds because there's so much software you can create, but I like better real sounds. I
Yeah.
feel they talk to me more, and the artificial ones, to me, especially if you use them on voices, immediately you get that science fiction, or if you go too far, robotic, or horror movie. It's really a delicate balance. But if something is natural, I don't know. It sounds to me, I relate more to it. Even if you end up manipulating it, you can manipulate natural sound to your heart's content. But that's usually my approach.
I love talking to sound editors because there's so many have told me something similar to what you told me, where you just be out and about and you're always listening and waiting for those things that you can quickly record, because you never know when you have a little library, a catalog. I think that's so interesting. It just makes your
Oh
job
yeah.
so much more interesting. I was also wondering that um you've been on this show since the beginning. What is it about what we do in the shadows that you most appreciate and love working on the show?
Well, the scripts and the, are, I mean, how do they come up with this stuff?
Okay.
I'm just, I don't know if you saw the, oh, there's so many. I mean, one that was good last season is the home improvement, the home remodel episode.
Yeah.
I wanted to submit that, but it's not really. The joke was on that one that I used the same sound for everything, because these shows, these reality TV shows, are really cheap, and they don't have the budgets and all that. So on the library, I found this sound of the Lego bricks. When you drop them, they make this sound.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen the episode, but every time they build something, you can play the Lego bricks, and it just it works. And I've used the same sound for everything as a joke. And I mean, you would have to be really plugged in to laugh about it. But yeah, I mean, the idea, it's the ideas. I mean, the jokes. I mean, on this one, how often do you get a fart song? I mean,
Oh,
that's got to be something that is not super common.
no. Yeah, and I feel like it's just elevated the art form to a whole other level.
Oh
I've
yeah,
wanted a fart song, and we now have it in our pop
we
culture,
absolutely.
and that's important. There's something about this show. When it first started, I thought, because I'd seen the movie, I thought, oh,
Hmm.
I don't know how long they're going to be able to like make this work, because it seems like it's a one joke and it's over, but it is so
It's the same.
intelligent.
It is the same joke over and
Pretty
over, but it never
much.
gets old.
Never gets
They
old.
sit in front of the camera, and they're vampires, and they're talking about their day. I mean, it's what could be funnier than that?
What could be funnier than that? Especially, and for me, Kayvan Novak is just a genius. He should already have a shelf full of Emmys by now.
Oh
They're
yeah,
all
no, he's
they're all Matt
amazing.
Berry, Natasha. They're all amazing. Look, Stefan, I think your work on this show is so brilliant. I hope you win the Emmy.
Oh, thank you so
Um,
much. Thank you.
but in the meantime, thank you for your time today. We really appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you.